Today we're going to talk about literature of exploration, and we're going to learn some interesting things about the Captain John Smith. During the period of exploration that happened in American territory, some countries wanted to conquer American lands, and also many battles were fought to own the enormous and rich American lands. The United States may have had par with Spain or France due to its natural abundance and its coveted lands, but the first explorers were not French, English, or Spaniards, because according to the first records of European exploration, this is in a Scandinavian language. History tells us how different travelers and explorers came to America and tell their stories about some characters, among which can mention people such as Christopher Columbus, Leif Erikson, Bartolomeo de las Casas, and the writings of Captain John Smith. According to what the history tells us, in London there was a meeting at the beginning of the year 1600 that was interested in the lands to the North Atlantic Ocean and South America, which would be called the Virginia Company of London, and its purposes would be: first, find gold and other precious metals; second, to find a northwest passage to the Pacific Ocean so they can trade more easily with Asian countries; and third, convert the natives of America to Christianity. After that, the desire for adventure and conquest grew. In the 17th century, many stories related to pirates, explorers, and adventurers gave way to the second wave of conquistadors or explorers from different parts of the world, with the firm intention of knowing land. But over time, they were dissipated because England was taking more strength with its military presence, and finally took possession of most of the colonies of North America, and the other countries present were losing strength and territory until disappear. It's through this story that the great Captain John Smith appears. In this adventure, we will be knowing some events experienced by Captain John Smith. John Smith was a settler from England who came to America to colonize Jamestown in 1607. He was a marine, explorer, cartographer, and writer, and he was born in Willoughby, England in 1580. He grew up working on his family's farm, but he wanted to be an explorer and have many adventures. He was a mercenary against the Spanish and Turks. When he was 16, he left his family and left as a mercenary to fight against the Spanish and the Turks. In 1599, he began to serve as a mercenary of Henry IV of France. Thanks to his courage, savagery, and because he decapitated 3 Turkish officers in a duel, one by one, he got his fame as a warrior. He served for Hungary. In 1601, he went to Hungary and he was in the Austrian force, since he was a brave warrior and was promoted to captain. Then he was captured by the Turks and was sold as a slave to the Tartars, where he serves his favorite lovers, Voss. Smith managed to kill him and escapes. After several dangerous adventures, returned to England. A few years later, he got his chance to go to America and create a new colony. John was excited by the adventures that he will live there. In 1606, three ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, sailed sea in search of new adventures. And on May 14, 1607, the ship reached the unexplored territory of Virginia. Smith was imprisoned for generating riot in the boat. At the age of 27, he was about to be killed, but the orders of Virginia Company were different, so he is released and left in charge of the military, who would settle in Jamestown, which became the first colony in America. More than half of settlers died. At the beginning of their arrival, the settlers did not plant crops and were not prepared to survive the difficulties of hunger or weather, and more than half of the settlers died during this first winter of diseases, Indian attacks, or starvation. John Smith was better prepared to survive since he had lived on a farm with his parents, and as a mercenary soldier he had learned to endure difficult conditions and determination to survive. Smith was captured by the chief Powhatan. In that same year, he was captured by a man sent by the chief Powhatan, ready to be killed. But at the last moment, he was saved thanks to an American Indian named Pocahontas. Time later, thanks to his ingenuity and experience, he began to make contributions to the colony, and he pulled it out of the ruins and helped it to improve its conditions. In 1608, he was named president of the colony. In 1616, he published a new description of New England based in his Budget of 1614. But however, historians question the authenticity of Smith's letter, saying that he was a braggart and exaggerate the events, or perhaps his rescue was really a ritual of adoption by the Powhatan Indians. True or not, this is one of the oldest example captivity narratives and helped establish the genre of exploration reports that helped lure European settlers to America and helped establish the concept of America as a land of opportunity, as well as help inspire the desire for westward movement as a young country developed. Smith's account of Pocahontas is also the chief source of what little is known about the Virginia Indians before their extinction due to disease and warfare. In 1608, the first American book was written. The first book written in America was a letter Captain John Smith sent to a friend in England, which was published in 1608 as a true relation of things and accidents in Virginia at that time. Smith published his most famous work about his capture by the Indians in Virginia under the order of Chief Powhatan, but this time he did not mention anything about Pocahontas. However, 7 years later, when Maracoas or Pocahontas died, he published all the details of this story, and it became the most recognized legend in America through the history of how Pocahontas saved the life of Captain Smith from the hands of her father. Had Smith and Pocahontas a relationship? Some people believe that, but the truth is that she got married to another man. The curious thing is that 13 months later, Pocahontas rescued Smith again when he is held in Werowomococo for stealing corn from the Powhatan. They want to kill him, but a friendly Indian, and then Pocahontas arrives in the middle of the night and warns him that her father wants to kill him, which shows some feeling of friendship. In 1614, Smith was sent to explore New England to search for gold, to collect and kill whales for oil. He made some of the first accurate maps of the coastline, although his voyage was a financial failure, and none of his future attempts at the exploration and colonization were successful. He tried himself to negotiate with the Pilgrims, but they only bought him his maps and their reports, and they did not let him go with them. Therefore, Smith remained in England, publishing an account on his voyage and adventures. Smith translated his version of Powhatan's speech in 1624 and called it Powhatan's Discourse of Peace and War, in which Powhatan supposedly tries to convince Smith and his men to give their weapons, but they do know and they escape unharmed. In 1624, he published the General History of Virginia, his most influential work. It served as a propaganda advertising lands he had explored in the New World as a land of freedom, joy, and abundance. With the maps of America, he contributed to the Pilgrims and Puritans that were in search of New Eden in what they called New England. He insisted in potential of the New England fishing force and other variety of resources, because he believed that the imperial future is with the people that work hard and realistic rewards. The truth is that his publications offered practical advice, as well as their map were of great help for future colonizing trips. In 1631, he dies after having lived a life full of adventures and great experiences. This was a review about literature of exploration and Captain John Smith. Thank you.